Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of Focus on Liberia. This is Thursday, and it's Tough Talking Thursday. Focus on Liberia is live on Prime FM 105.5 in Monrovia. Today, we're going to be dealing with a number of current issues. But first, let me acknowledge our colleagues in Monrovia there, Mr. Prince Momba, and also Theophilo Williams joining us from Prime FM. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Sorry. Thanks so much, Dennis Ijara and the crew there in the US. Thanks for joining us here in Liberia. We're glad to be with you tonight so that we can have a wonderful show tonight. Of course, the public listening to hear from us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dennis. Thank you ever so much for linking up with us. It's a pleasure, and it's good having you in Monrovia.
Thank you so much. And to the viewers and listeners there in Radio Land in Liberia, we say hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is FOL. We broadcast from Atlanta, Georgia, and we are live on Prime FM 105.5. With me to discuss the current issues here, I have Mr. Jimmy Eastman, who is joining me from the nation's capital. Jimmy, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Hey, thanks, John. I'm glad to be here to discuss our national issues. Looking forward to a healthy discussion.
Thank you. And by the way, Jimmy is a regular panelist here at Focus on Liberia. I also have a panelist here at Focus on Liberia who is a co-host on the FOL Marketplace, Mr. Lawrence Kennedy. We call him Professor Lawrence Kennedy. Larry, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Hey, thanks, Dennis. And let me say a big thank you to Prince and Theo in the studio over there in Prime at 105.5 FM. We appreciate you guys. And thanks to Jimmy for joining us today.
This is day 2 live on Prime FM 105. Today, we're going to be delving into some current issues. Among them, we have the Invincible Sport Park is completed. Report of $1.1 million scandal at the Ministry of Health. The UP Standard Bearer Joseph Newman Boaka issues a press statement on the Lofa by-election. The U.S. State Department of Human Rights report on Liberia. We're going to be delving into that. And also, instances of domestic violence by Liberians on Liberians. All happening here. So to start, we're going to go to our colleagues, Prince and Theo in Monrovia, to give us a summary of what's going on, starting with the Invincible Park.
All right, so thanks so much again for joining us. Well, all is set for the dedicated program of the Invincible Sports Park that has been completed, that is completed by the government of Liberia. And of course, Liberians are in high gear to witness the program tomorrow. Since the process started, people been wondering what is in there. But this afternoon, on my way from the Pingsville building, I passed there, and the president convoy were there, as a matter of fact. And so, some of the scene that was around it, been removed, and the structure in there, you can vividly see some of them. And so that is what is happening. That is the talk of the day. What the Invisible Park intends to proffer or to provide or to benefit the nation after its completion and dedication tomorrow, and what is its importance. So those are the topic around town. Of course, you always have pro and cons on those kind of discussions. Those who feel that it's not necessary at all, and those who feel that it's necessary because it has to do with Liberia. It is important that Liberians have those infrastructure. So that is it with the Invisible Park. So as a member of the media, we are following. Tomorrow we're going to be there to witness the occasion, to hear from the president why he decided that the Invisible Park be erected right at where we will have the Springfield. What is important and why it should be at that particular location.
Thank you. So right now, the news of the completion of the Invincible Park, how is it being received throughout Liberia? Are people excited, or what's going on there?
So that's why I said there are mixed reactions. Of obviously there will be people who are excited, especially those from the ruling class. On the other hand, you have people from the opposition class who will feel that uh, who will feel that it's not necessary. And then there are also ordinary Liberians who might not be part of any side, who also have their say, that no, the issue of the bread and butter should be addressed rather than an invisible part, who may not even understand, the language an invisible part, what it stands for. And then on the other hand, those of the higher, the educated class feel that it's important. And so honestly, there have been basic reaction in their homes, at the rural attire centers, in the tested care. There are mixed reaction, honestly.
Thank you. Do we know where the money comes from to build this? Is it grant from somewhere? Is it government money? Do we know the source of the fund for the Invincible Park?
Government has said it's government funding, except for if there have been other source of funding, but that other no, it's government's project.
Thank you. Let me go to Jimmy here. Jimmy, in almost every project, this is in Monrovia. I understand it's around the James Spriggs Payne Airport. According to Prince, there's always mixed reaction, for whatever is. What's your initial reaction to this park?
Very good. Initially, anytime we hear of a recreation center being open where the youth can participate and develop their skills, we know this is good for the community because, one, it offers youth the ability to develop their skills and also a pace of entertainment. We talk about the rise in Zogos and a lot of misfits in Monrovia. This is an avenue that, instead of going to do things that are not healthy, this provides them an opportunity to go and develop their skills. But you asked an important question, Ja. Where are the resources coming from? You see, whenever you're strapped for resources, when you have limited resources, you have to take a very analytical approach to where you spend your money. You want to sometimes gain the most, but then sometimes there is a sentimental issue, an issue that you need to help people breathe, to help them be more happy. So even though the gains monetary will not be as much, but it will be good for the social development of the community. But in itself, creating a recreation, entertainment, sports development park is definitely positive for the Liberian community.
Thank you. We always hear in Liberia, this is the first of its kind. It's never been done since 1847. Larry, this is the very first, maybe. And what does it say about priorities? I know people normally, when things like this happen, to say, well, where's the government priority? We saw 14 military hospital. People were saying, hey, why don't we renovate JFK? Now we see an Invincible Park, and sometimes the current infrastructure are falling apart, and we're building new ones. What's your take?
Look, like I see my man Sharif Hadara over here posting saying, how would the government run this invisible park when people are living in poverty? So you have to get your priorities straight. I mean, there's no argument that, having parks and stuff is good, giving the young people a place to kind of relieve stress, to kind of play around, have some fun. But those are what we refer to as nice to have. There are things that are very nice to have, but when you're faced with competing objectives, healthcare, education, security, things of that sort, you kind of adjust your priorities and say, okay, do we put money into this or do we put money into that? But right now, while the Invincible Park is nice to have, you have to ask yourself, where's the sustainability plan? This stuff has to be paid for. This thing has to be paid for. Where's the sustainability plan? How long will we be able to afford to pay for that thing over the long run? Or is it just going to be another money going to waste? So, yeah, we got to get our priorities straight. The park is a nice to have, but I give the president credit for thinking, about the young people. But I think the young people would be more impressed with job creation as opposed to having a park.
And Theo, you can come in anytime. My question always has been, what goes into coming up with these projects? Based on where we work, Jimmy, you know this better than I do, is before you come up with even a project, right? There's certain thinking, thoughts is being put into that as to why, the benefits in the business world, they would say the return on investment. You have 10 different things to choose from. Why this one? Because it's always the opportunity, foregone that is very crucial. The things that you left to do this one. So if you have to think about this, what do you think were some of the thoughts put into the creation or the building of an Invincible Park?
First of all, I would think that one of the principal objectives is to provide the youth entertainment. And coupled with that is to provide the youth a place to develop. If we look at our countries around us, there are several avenues where youth can develop their skills. I remember once when I was in Abidjan at school there for electrical engineers. They had kids from high school participating in sports and getting stipends while going to school. They were on teams that competed at national and community levels. That is how they developed their entire football program. So it's important to start early, to get youth involved early and develop their skills early, so that later on they can become world-class soccer stars like the president is. But the question is, can we maintain this? It's very crucial when you going about development projects, just like Mr. Kennedy was alluding to. You have to be able to sustain it. And that is why your projects have to be coordinated so that they leverage from each other. If you just build a place as a silo, it may not survive. We want this to survive. We want 20 years from now, we want to see thousands and thousands of youth go through this. So it is important in the planning, whatever prompted this decision, but in the planning going forward, we have to make necessary a plan so it continues and it does not break down. We have seen eyesores in our country where we said, well, why would let this huge building break down? We can't afford to be doing that. So good job, but better job if it lasts another 50 years.
Thank you. Let me go to our colleagues in Monrovia, Prince and Theo. We see that this is, first of all, do we know whether, besides going there for recreation, whether there's a sports academy associated with it or some form of a program that is going to be sustained? Okay, and also this is for youth recreation. No one can deny that it's very important. But most of the youth that this should be intended for, a good number of them are on drugs. They are living in the graveyards. So, and they call them the Zogos. Who is really this is intended for? From what you are hearing in Monrovia, and how is it going to be used in the long run? I know that there are dignitaries and other people coming from out of the country to do the opening of this park. So there's a big pump and pageantry plan for this. But I'm looking at the targets. Who are the beneficiaries, and how is it going to benefit them in the long run? And why was this one chosen over other programs like rehab and so on and so forth?
What the government said the sports park is for everybody. That is a fact. They have said that time without a number. That is why we know. But they have not disclosed to the Liberian populace as to whether they're going to have a sports academy at that park. That is yet to be disclosed or made known to the public. But let me give my take quickly on this whole issue about the sports park. Like all of you have said, I mean, it's a good thing. It's recreational. I mean, it's welcoming. But in my opinion, I think the government should focus more on those paramount issues rather than just having a sports park. The sports park is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there are issues that should be tackled. The bread and butter issues. I have done view samplings as it relates to this whole sports park. And the ordinary man will tell you they don't see it necessary. Come to think about this, Dennis and the rest of the guys. Currently, as we speak, Monrovia is in darkness. We don't have an efficient and effective electricity. The issue of water still remains a problem. The issue of health still remains a problem. I mean, it's a good thing to have a sports park like other countries around Africa and the world over. But I think the government should focus more on providing those basic social services rather than just having a sports park. That is my take on this whole sports park issue.
As Jesus said, the poor you're going to have always. If we mind all this, pocketbook issue, okay, we have to take this money and buy, food for everyone and all that. We may never have recreation. Larry?
Yeah, and in fact, I want to follow up on what Prince is saying. But and so just to be fair, Prince and Theo and Jimmy, you guys help me out understand something. What percentage of young girls or women would you guys think would enjoy this park? Would it be equally distributed, or would it be mainly focused on the men? What do you guys think? What percentage of women do you think is going to enjoy that park?
We don't know yet.
It's a good question, Larry. But like I said, I have never entered India. It was only today. When the president went there some part of last week to view the place, I did not go there. So it was only today. So I've been seeing pictures on the internet.
But when you look at it, it looks like it's more geared towards guys coming there to play football, right?
Yeah. That's how it looks like. But I don't want to be too fast to speak on it tomorrow. Might is on field to the public.
Yeah, the sports park has a soccer pitch. I think, a tennis court, basketball court, and the children playground. That's what I know.
And so Larry, those are the hard questions now government will be answering. It's already erupted, but then the Ministry of Information now will be telling us exactly what the percentage of girl, male, females, youth that will benefit from the park. What was the feasibility study before it was erected? Those are questions that are going to be answered if we find out that those things were never considered.
Thank you. And within the weeks and days ahead, we'll hear more about the Invincible Park. It's going to be dedicated tomorrow, and so we're going to know more and more. Jimmy, your conclusion on Invincible Park, and then we move to our next issue.
There's a saying one time when excuse me, I love to talk about Jesus Christ sometimes, but one time when somebody came and bathed him with a whole lot of perfume, myrrh. And the disciples said, but wait now, why are we wasting this perfume and thing? We had sold our perfume and got money and feed plenty of poor people. That was a waste. And Jesus rebuked them and said, wait, let me tell you something. There'll always be poor people. In other words, there'll always be problems. But sometimes we have to make the people feel good. So if this park is going to provide some entertainment that people will release their stress, like Larry was saying, and they will have somewhere to go on Sunday or park day, it's not measurable. It's not something tangible you can measure, but it helps. There are other things to consider, and I totally agree with both Theophilus and Prince and Larry. How you have to figure out the best plan, but some things you will not measure if it brings joy, if it brings satisfaction, if it adds beauty to the city. They can't be measured. So as much as we need, we're going to have poor people, and we have poor people to address. There are going to always be poor people. But sometimes we have to address other things that are not clearly in deficit. So it's not a bad idea, but let's make it last long.
Thank you. And so the question of maintenance or sustainability, the question, if I were advising the president, I say put that park in Bannersville. You know, enough things on that side. Therefore, we always have traffic. And with Theo, you wanted to come in? Within the days and weeks ahead, we're going to learn more about this park and the benefits that are going to be accrued from it.
So Dennis Kevin is joining us via the telephone line. He's driving and he doesn't have the link, but he wants to make an input, just a very short input. So we put him through via the telephone line. So I'm sure you're going to get it.
Sure.
Kevin, are you through? Hello. Yeah. So, Kevin, just what about Dennis? Are you getting in?
Not too clearly. It's still low.
All right. Kevin, go ahead.
Not too clearly. It's still low.
All right. Go ahead. So okay now. All right. Is it okay now? So okay now. You're getting in?
No, not clear.
So Kevin, just call my phone, Kevin. I'll put it on the your call my phone.
No.
Yeah, so he's calling me directly. I'm going to put you through from my phone. So you just want to make an import very shortly so that we can transition if we are transitioning. Yeah, so he's calling me directly. I'm going to put you through.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberal Live on Prime FM 105.5. We are broadcasting from Atlanta and Georgia.
Yes, okay, Kevin, just go ahead.
Prime FM 105.5. We are broadcasting from Atlanta and Georgia.
Yes, okay, Kevin, just go ahead. Go ahead, Kevin.
There's a lot of feedback, Prince. There's a lot of feedback, Prince. Prince, there's a lot of feedback. Get that adjusted. So let's move on to other issues. Prince, there's a lot of feedback. Get that adjusted. So let's move on to other issues.
Yeah, I'm getting you too. I don't know what I'm getting you.
No, we are not getting him.
Prince.
I'm getting you too. I don't know what
Prince.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberal Live on Prime FM 105.5.
Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberal Live on Prime FM 105.5.
And I am Dennis Jah.
There's a lot of feedback, Prince. Okay. Jimmy, if you can go off and come back in, it looks like the feedback is coming from you.
Is it okay now?
If you can go off and Jimmy, please go off and come back in. I think the feedback is coming from Jimmy.
You getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting you.
All right. So you getting me now, right, Jack?
Right. Go ahead.
It's okay. All right. So we will join Kevin shortly. So Kevin, if you follow, you can call. I think you said. So Kevin wants to make an input shortly on the issue of the invisible part that we're discussing. Then we can transition to the next talking point. I think everybody has made a point. Only I think it's settled now. The feedback is okay now. It's not too bad. So let's see what we can pull Kevin through to make his point. Then we'll get to the next topic. We trying to gradually adjust.
How do you guys hear me now?
All right. So let me see.
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin, am I okay?
I get in, Jen.
Yeah, I'm getting.
So are you getting Kevin now?
No, we're not.
All right, we're trying to set up.
Yeah, let's do that later. We can do that later, Prince.
So, all right, no problem.
Let's go to our next issue here, which is the report of $1.1 million corruption at the Ministry of Health. Kevin, what's the story? Oh, sorry, Prince.
Well, so that like I said to you, I like you to start up with that, honestly. Yeah, I have to start with that because some of those things it appears. Are you getting me right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it appears like we in the water. We see it. We bathe it on a daily basis, and so the stream voices that will either come from the diaspora or from other sources may add more flavor to it than the regular talk shows hosts and the regular reporters, the regular news. So that's why I really thought that you would start with that, especially the issue of the 1.1 million from the Ministry of Health. I mean, that's what I think. Yeah.
So the report here is the Global Fund, and so the Global Fund, they are funding projects in Liberia, especially the Health Ministry. So here is what they found out from their report of money given to the Health Ministry. The allegation is their alleged conflict of interest, procurement fraud, overcharging for services rendered, concealing improper payment of fuel taxes, systemic fraud, and misappropriation, among others. Those are the reports of they also pointed out, GF's Global Fund pointed out that 0.52 million in grant funds were wasted or misused for the mother-to-mother peer program and travel-related costs. And talking about those travel, it found that 50% of cases, the Ministry of Health attendance records showed that staffs were at the headquarters during the dates of the alleged fraud or alleged travel. The report also said between January 2020 and April 2020, the Ministry of Health spent $27,032 in daily subsistence allowances and fuel to deliver incentive payment to mother peer or to have them sign contracts. So these are the allegations of misappropriation of funds by the Ministry of Health. So the Ministry of Health reacted to this and said, well, although we don't agree with everything in the report, the ministry wishes to assure the public that it is giving significant attention to the allegation of fraud and misappropriation. Yes, and then kind of blame other people, other actors within the ministry for doing this. Laura, this is not the first time we are hearing about reports of corruption in these places. And most of the time it's coming from outside. This one is coming from global funds.
These guys, here's what's going to happen. Back in 2010, and first of all, the Global Fund, I think if anybody who doesn't know who the Global Fund is an international organization where they get a lot of the money from several countries. USAID is the largest donor supporter of the Global Fund. So US money is also in this Global Fund as well. Here's the problem. Back in 2010, USAID had a program going on in Liberia. Around 1.9 million of that money was stolen. What happened was the U.S. Department of Justice filed a report and had a couple of Liberians who were involved in that scheme arrested. Those guys were, and in fact, go to the U.S. Department of Justice website. Costa, I discussed this one time on his show, I think about a year ago. This stuff is out there. When you tamper with U.S. taxpayers' money, the U.S. Department of Justice is going to come after you. I don't care who you are. They're going to come after you and make an example of you. We know the U.S. government has been talking about corruption, and have made corruption a national security issue. These guys who were indicted and jailed, in fact, I think one of them has been released. They were facing up to 20 years in prison for stealing U.S. taxpayers' money. I don't care who you are. They're going to come and get you. Ministry of Health should do an internal audit. They should really look into this and try to bring somebody to book. Otherwise, the U.S. government is going to do it for you. Plain and simple. They're not going to tolerate any level of corruption whatsoever. So if you're not aware of Liberians being arrested out of Liberia for stealing USAID money, it's happening again. This is USAID money. Well, it is part of USAID's money. So they're going to try to come and recoup that money. So people need to pay close attention to that. It doesn't reflect kindly on the government of Liberia. It happened in 2010 under the previous administration. It's happening now under this administration. It's a poor reflection on the government, and the government needs to take some decisive action against this right away to let the U.S. government know that it's standing up against corruption. This is an opportunity for them to come clean.
Thank you, Larry. And by the way, as Larry said, the Global Fund is a partnership that is designed. Okay, I'm hearing feedback there. It's a partnership. It's designed to accelerate the end to AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria as epidemics. So this international group, they invest more than $4 billion a year into programs by local experts in more than 100 countries, Liberia being one of them. So again, this money, as Larry stated, coming from U.S. taxpayers, we've been many times Liberia has been booked for this whole corruption thing by U.S. Of late, U.S. Officials have been pointing fingers and sometimes chastising us about corruption. Jimmy, here's another report. Ministry of Health. This is the health ministry is where we need help the most, because our healthcare system is really a mess. Now there's corruption.
It has been pointed out to us several times. One place we need to tighten up is accountability. This is a blaring example how there is a lack of accountability that is causing misuse of funds being diverted elsewhere, unclear way funds are being dispersed. This is clearly one of the main things we need to focus on now. Those people who are in charge of ministries, those people who are in charge of agencies, if you can't be accountable for every penny that goes through your office, then you shouldn't have the job. We have to hold these people accountable. And this is what we're looking forward to seeing the administration do, the executive do. Hold your deputies accountable and they will perform. Because if they do not perform, and they know that the disciplinary action will be that they have to leave their job, then we will see a difference. Until we start holding these people to a high accountability, either you leave the job or you be disciplined for your lack of leadership. This is where we need to tighten up. I think this is glaring in several different areas in our economy and in our industries and all our facilities. It is something that is lacking. We need to tighten up. If you're going to make money, if you're going to increase government revenue as projected, if you're going to even generate more revenue, you have to tighten the screws first. If you have a leaky pot or leaky bucket and you go into the well to draw water, what good is going to do? Half of the water is going to escape before you get home. You have to patch the leak first. We have to make everybody accountable. If you're handling government money, if it's not transparent what you're doing, if it's not on paper, every penny that goes through each one of your agencies, then you have to be brought to book.
But
That's
Jimmy,
the only way we'll move our economy.
Jimmy, how long have we been talking about this?
We talk about it and doing it are two different things. There has to be a movement behind it, a strong movement. And if that requires the Auditor General to place personnel at each location to make or develop a team to make sure funds are being accounted for, then that you have to do it. But we will not go anywhere until this issue is addressed.
Let me come to you, Prince, and Theo in Monrovia. This is not the first time we heard of corruption at the Agriculture Ministry, corruption at NEC, corruption at the LACC itself, and the list goes on and on.
Thank you for joining me. Thank God you did a business already. That's how much you have done. Dennis and the rest of the guys, this is an investigative report from the Global Fund. An investigative report about the Office of the Inspector General has discovered. So, have discovered systematic fraud and misappropriation. So, I don't know why would the Ministry of Health come to react to this. However, maybe the ministry knows why. It is reacting the way it is doing. But for me, it just sounds very, very bad for our country. I think you guys followed the statement by the ambassador from the United States of America to Liberia.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks after, the former ambassador, Lena Thomas Greenfield, also came in, but she said, corruption is a democratic killer and it shouldn't be practiced in this Liberia. And so those reports, I do not think we should just take them lightly. I do not think so. I mean, it does more harm to us as a country and people than good. And we will do all of the good things domestically. We will have the invisible part. We'll have the road connectivity from Red Light to Kanta to Yekepa to Grand Gilead to Maryland County. But the international trust and confidence matters a lot. And so if your partners are coming with this report and you want to be reacting to them, as if to say they will just gather and just read anything negative on you because they hate you, that's why they brought our money. You did not ask them. Even if you asked, they brought the money. So why would they decide to just write a report and indict you falsely? And so all I have to say is it just saddening for us as a country. This is not the first time, like you said, reports have been released on Liberia, corruption reports, misappropriation of donors' funding, partners in trust of agents of government to invest into them to do a specific thing, and those money have been squandered. This is Liberia, so it's just sad. It is in this. I mean, delivery coming. You get America, you're working, and we partners now. You trust me. If you send some money to me to do a piece of job, all of a sudden you found out Prince did not do what you're supposed to have done. You would feel so disappointed, and you feel more nasty about it. This is the kind of situation. And so, as country and government, we need to take those reports very seriously and take action and take measures to correct them, because we're going to elections. Trust me. If the people do not trust you and they may not support you, take it or leave it.
So, Prince,
Thank you.
how do people feeling now? Do they trust the government of doing anything? Because other cases have come and gone with, as we say in Liberia, no head, no tail.
And so then those are diplomatic form of writing. They're not going to tell you, say, I do not trust you.
No,
But
talk
if the
about the
global form
Liberian
of,
people, the actual the
you talk about,
citizens of Liberia, yeah. Do they trust that government going to do anything about this one?
Dennis, Liberia's a funny country. I'm sorry to say this, because you do not understand us as time. The time to take real action, we cannot take those actions. But again, people will have different ways and different reactions to issues like this. And then this country is a country where politics have engulfed everything. So people who you expect to be so rational will appear blind because of political affiliation or political reasons, or maybe protection of jobs. And so, yeah, and so you will find out that people will see the very bright and white light. They say this is darkness. That's how that looks like. And so to be able to give a definite answer that Liberians think that government, there will be an action. I cannot give a definite answer to that, but I think there are people in this country that are calling on the government of Liberia every day and night via the various radio stations. Their voices been heard through the media, through the civil society. That government should take action on issues.
Thank you.
Let me come in quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hold on. Let me welcome Isaac Vatukba, who just joined us. Isaac is the former COS to Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. He's joining us also from near the nation's capital. Isaac, again, welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are live on Prime FM 105.5 in Monrovia.
Thank you for having me. I think
So,
I got
Dennis,
the wrong code from the beginning for answering.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
So Dennis, so if I could just come chime in real quickly. We heard about corruption in the last administration. And in fact, the leader, Madam Johnson, even admitted that corruption was one of the problems she had. So the report card for this administration is, how have you addressed accountability since you've taken over? And if you are saying that there has been no addressing, no closing the loopholes, no raising accountability, no auditing ministers, agencies, then that is the report card. You have not done the very essential thing you need to grow. If I give Ghana as an example, Ghana is still mining gold. It is known as the Gold Coast for the gold they have there. The very first thing Rawlings had to do when he got there, that the mines, he sealed the mines. He made sure not one piece of gold will come out of those mines without going into the government coffers. We have an issue like that with our diamonds and thing that is being mined today. Are we policing this mining? Because the amount of leakage just there could amount to millions. So we have to do the essential things. And if you're not doing it, it's going to show. And that's when you have these things occurring, because those loopholes have to be covered. Accountability has to be held at the highest objective of the administration if you're going to plug the holes. There's no if and but.
Thank you. And Isaac, why do we keep having these instances of corruption, yet we don't see anyone getting fired? We don't see anyone going to jail. We don't see, there's no action. Why?
Because at the end of the day, those who are being corrupt They also know the people above them who are being corrupt. You see, corruption is an inside thing. It's not an external thing. You can have external accomplices, like in the report, that OIG report, they referenced that a fiscal agent did not handle their business as well, right? So when no action is taken, it's obviously there's some level of complicity or connivance. And that's what has happened in Liberia. This stuff is not just happening, it's not new. Like Jimmy was saying, this government came and didn't really do a baseline of where we were. And we were making all this noise. I was in the opposition before with the CDC. We made all this noise about corruption under Madam Salif. We knew where all the issues were. We raised them. So for us to simply do a baseline and take a position on where each of these, especially revenue generating agencies, all the ministries and agencies that have significant revenue from the budget put into them that were not performing at all, we refused to do it. Blatantly refused. I had better arguments with Samuel Twe, Rufus Dakote, all of those, Safwa Gray, all of them in the CDC chat rooms. They refused to take action. That was when Madam Sally said the first time that she left 150 million in the coffers and they were arguing she didn't leave no money. That was complete nonsense. You don't do a baseline. How can you argue against somebody who's giving you facts? And Madam Sally has continuously been giving those jabs to this government. She even did it just the other day with electricity.
Yeah.
So if we do not, really take a stand against corruption, against bad leadership, against bad governance, our country is really at the precipice, of really sliding off into the abyss. And if we, Liberians, cannot make a serious decision to try to get serious leadership that can restore credibility, how long has it been that the international community has been complaining about misuse of funds? They had to bring this audit out intentionally. They've complained, they wrote a joint letter that the government was using their funds for the wrong purposes. And now this one is clear. You see how detailed these people investigated? They compared, attendance at, these different functions. They were having training functions. They saw that people in the malaria control program versus people in the tuberculosis program versus people in the AIDS program, they were putting their names down for 3 different meetings that they said they were attending, that those meetings occurred at the same time. They put down names of people who they supposedly paid that they never paid. The person who was controlling the process, the communication person, he had his own communications company that he was using to contract with. So the corruption is systemic and it's systematic. And it's all part of us. So if the minister can come and say, oh, we agree with everything. So what you agree with? The part you agree with, do you take responsibility for it? Are you going to pay for it? Are you going to go to jail for it? So there's no serious effort to make a change.
And she can take herself to jail. Somebody has to.
And that's why her boss, President Weah, needs to stand up. He has not stood up against corruption. All these cases are happening under his watch. Even the people who try to fight corruption. Jimmy was talking about putting somebody in each ministry and agency. We have the internal audit agency. They are there. But is their work being respected? Or are they being killed because they know too much? Those are questions.
And Larry, why is it that it's always have to be some international community? Maybe before we have, there's some action or there's some high level attention being paid. So people are saying, hey, okay, we've been saying this thing all along and nobody listens. Only when the IG or the American ambassador or somebody else. Why are we sitting and waiting for somebody else to do the talking for us?
The only reason why they pay close attention when it comes to the international community, because we have an economy that relies on the extractive sector to get money, and then we also rely on the donors to fund the other half of the money we're getting. So when the hands that feed you start telling you that, look, you're doing something wrong, you worry because that hand may not be around to feed you again. That's when they start paying close attention. The international community can withhold a lot of the donations they're making to the country, and then the people will tend to suffer. And when the people start to suffer, there's going to be some type of an uprising and protest because of the corruption and all the other issues. We only pay attention because the international community can say, look, We are not giving you guys any more money because the money just seems to be stolen. Nothing seems to come out of it. So that's why we pay close attention. It's not like we don't know that, what's going on, because government officials are not just corrupt. There are people who are on the other side, outside of government, who are bribing government officials. So when we move into the report discussing the human rights, the United States Human Rights Report, you were seeing that report that about 90% of the population believe that society is corrupt. The people that are in government, where do you think they come from? They didn't come from Mars. They didn't come from some other place. They came from within the society. So every time we replace them, we put somebody else who is within the society in that position. It goes to show that what Iva was saying is systemic, is ingrained within the society. But again, to answer your question, Dennis, we only pay attention because if the international community get pissed off, they leave. We're in worse condition than we are. We have an economy totally reliant on donations. That is so sad, so sad. And the way to solve this problem, there are two ways to solve it. You can solve it with a bottom-up approach, which takes a much longer time, or you can do a top-down approach. The top-down approach is leadership. You bring somebody in power who say, look, I'm going to set the trend over here. I'm going to make sure that anybody who is doing something, they're going to get fired. Everybody else will fall in line. This is what, and a lot of people tend to quote what happened, what Jerry Rawlings did. True. It also happened in Rwanda. It happened in China. It was a very corrupt place. China is the only place I know that have executed a billionaire. I can't really think of another country where a billionaire. Can you imagine someone having money in Liberia, somebody threatening to execute them? Not only would they buy the judiciary branch, they'll probably end up buying the legislative branch and the executive branch as well. So we have a society that nothing seems to work because it is just ingrained in the society to be corrupt. But hopefully, with the international community paying close attention right now, we may just kind of start changing our habits a little bit. And if we've done, it's going to create a lot of issues. It's going to create a lot of issues, But it's not just one-sided. It's the government as well as the people who are paying a bribe to the government as well to get things done.
And talking about the people, Jimmy, is it complacency, or is it that we are waiting for someone to steal so that we can also benefit from them? Or what will it take for the Liberian people to do something about this? And today is the 43rd anniversary of the 79 protests for rights and rights. Till this day, there are people who still blame the progressive or those who organize the demonstration and say, you were wrong, this was bad, this kept us back, and all the 9 years. What will it take the Liberian people to do something? Out of talking, out of strike, out of protest, out of doing something that will make people to know that it is not cool to steal from us.
Well, that is why your question is the answer has always been in front of us. We have three branches of government. We have the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. We are asking now the executive to take leadership and fire those people who are not accountable. Make them accountable. Give them a standard and make them do what they're supposed to do. The legislative body, when they find out the executive body is not making these strong stands, they get together and they make a strong stand and hold the executive to the standard that they need to. If they're not doing that, then the legal system that's supposed to interpret the law, they have their portion to do. We have these entities in place. Why are they not working? I was looking at Mr. Amos Kennedy and comment just now. He said it's not good to put poor people in government because when they don't have money, they're easily manipulatable. You can manipulate them, which is true. It's easy when you don't. So what is the solution? The solution is having drastic measures, firing people for doing the wrong thing, having measures taken to correct it. But as long...
But Jimmy, you are still asking for the people that are stealing to punish themselves. Yeah.
We have to get tired of it.
Right.
If we have to, it's just like anything else. You have to realize this thing. If you like to drink, and you falling down in the gutter every day, one of these days you gotta realize drinking not good for you. And that is where the Liberian gonna have to wake up. This corruption that we have learned to live by, we got so used to, is not good for us. We're not going nowhere with it. We need to get tired with it now.
Isaac, how do we fix this? Yeah, how do we fix it? Because this is just too much. And from we know that the judiciary is not doing it. There's no leadership. Legislative branch is also not doing anything. How do we get this fixed? You can unmute yourself, Isaac. All right, Theo and Prince, you are there on the ground. What approach can we take to resolve this issue of corruption that is so ingrained, endemic in all these ministries?
And so I think the first thing we need to do, we need to be nationalistic. We need to have love country. We need to think that if we have the opportunity to serve, we should think of those who do not have that same opportunity. That we should have policies that will positively impact them. And so to take millions of dollars and pocket it and then have myself live the most luxurious life. My children go to the best school around the world. It's not a way forward. We have to love this country, because if you sit and think about those that have left at the margin of society, that do not have that the opportunity you have, that do not even know one cell number to call to say, oh, I need you to help me send my child to school. You need to think about them. That just the answer to the question. We need to love this country. We do not love this country. We feel that this place is just somewhere you just come and get rich, and maybe go to the States and other part of the world and live and enjoy yourself. Liberians should have in mind that this is our home. So those who God have blessed to be able to serve as leaders should also think of those who do not have the opportunity. That the reason why God bless you is to formulate a policy that will possibly impact them. That even if they on the farm, they can make palm wine to sell. When their children come to Monrovia, they should have the opportunity to go to school. Government should provide those needs that are provided for them. The schools should have the kind of quality that it needs to have. That's the only answer to the question. We have to love this country. We do not have love. There's no way you have love for your country and then donors send money to do a specific thing in a specific government entity or ministry or agency. They eat the money. They justify. There's no love.
Right. And how can we, what can we do about that? Because you can't teach love. You can't
All right, so
if somebody, what
and then,
do we
and then
do?
people should be punished.
Okay.
People should be prosecuted. Corrupt officials shouldn't go impunity. When their records are proven, you are punished.
So if those who are supposed to punish these rogues, these thieves, are not punishing them, what do we do?
And so there were, I said, we Liberians, so now the place was also act, we do not act. So then the citizen now should actually, like Lara was saying, if you are to take certain action that will better the lives of the people and you do not doing it continuously, it leaves the people to take certain action, it leaves the people to uprise, it leaves the people to take matters into their hands. And so it goes back to us as Liberian. We've seen it. We witnessed it. We've seen it. Nothing is happening here, beyond. I mean, also of public or beyond camera. It's happening in the public. We've seen it.
Isaac, are you with us now? So you can be the last on this issue. Isaac, are you with us? Please unmute yourself.
Okay, Dennis. I think Larry hit something on the nail. Before he comes in, Larry hit something on the nail. He talked about a top-down approach. This is the only way I saw corruption stop in any country. I lived all around Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Ghana. The only way to stop it was one way. If you have a problem, give any ministry if you want. If you have a theft problem, let's say in the Ministry of Agriculture, get any one of the ministries. And you say, what happened? This money got stolen. Oh, the money got stolen. You fire the minister. You hire a new minister. The next problem, if you have a problem again at the Ministry of Agriculture, you fire the minister. You know what's going to happen to the third minister that go there? He will make sure anybody who is misusing or stealing money, he will fire them before they fire him. So if you start disciplining from the top, it's going to roll downhill. So just what Larry was saying is a top down. And that's the only way I saw it worked. It hasn't worked in any other way.
Thank you. Isaac, you have the final word on this topic. How do we fix this? Because we have the people. Hold on, Isaac. We have legislators that we vote in power. We vote for them as a people. They are corrupt, but we're just waiting for them to give us our share of the loot. How do we fix this? Opposition, you are opposition guy. You have opposition people in the house, and they are stealing as well.
No question. So there's several ways, right? But let's start from the stuff that we can handle as, let's say, the executive branch, right? Firstly, nobody is perfect, right? Everybody is prone to steal, especially if there is no accountability for it. So we don't use our systems. That's the first thing. We don't use the laws on the book. We see the leniency that President Weah, even before him, President Salif, her son messed up Nokia. What she said, I take responsibility. Then let the law hold you responsible. But we do not hold people responsible. We do not hold people accountable. There's no transparency. We need to increase transparency and demand that the Freedom of Information Act that requires all these different ministry and agencies to have reports on their websites, that it should have expenditure reports. How can the legislature create a budget, approve a budget of nearly $1 billion, 750 plus million, without even understanding how the money before was spent? The same with the Meta Steel deal.
Right.
They really did not even vet what Meta Steel has done with regards to its contractual requirements or concession requirements, and they're trying to approve a new deal. Now they're trying to switch. So that's one, utilizing our laws and really enforcing them. The second thing is, if anybody can get their hand on currency or on money, they will try to scheme. In Liberia, you send somebody to buy something to the market. When they come back, for them to get you change that war. If you don't remember, you're not getting change. So it's a cultural thing that's so embedded that only systems of truth, and that's where Larry should also be talking about, can really help us. If we don't implement systems that restrict people, that give us warning, that we know on a regular basis, X, Y, Z, certificates and licenses and extra cost this amount, and we're supposed to get that amount. When that amount doesn't come in, we know something wrong. The identification issue in terms of all these payments we make to false people, even the fact that there are ghost people on the payroll. If we had an efficient national identification system, we'll catch many of those things. So a combination of systems, a combination of implementing our laws and enforcing them to make sure that people don't violate them, plus incarcerating people who violate the laws and are caught with their hands in the cookie jars. The combination of those three things, I believe, can really, really stop corruption. But if we don't do them, and we don't do them in tandem, and we don't talk about it openly, and have these strong conversations like we're having now, more of these with people who are actually stealing, telling them, pointing out that, like the health minister, call her on this show, discuss with her which portion of the things she agrees with, which portion she disagrees with. What specifically are they doing about the one they agree with? How do they reconcile the one they disagree with? Until we can do those things in a public manner, and we'll just keep pushing corruption down the road. Because the CDC talk about so much corruption on Ellen Johnson Salipa. They have come, it's worse today than it was yesterday. And who knows if the next government will not look at it and use as an excuse, in the last government was very, very corrupt. We only corrupt small, we not corrupt plenty. That's not acceptable. So you guys who kind of in the media, the people who are the talking heads, they need to do a lot more work in terms of teaching our people. And this whole thing about some level of commitment to our country, some level of responsibility for what happens as a citizen, all of that needs to come to bear for us to really cut down corruption, because it's not going to go away. People always attempt, but if we can restrict it a little bit, we'll be fine.
Thank you. Let's discuss one more issue, and then we're going to read comments and open the phone lines for our viewers and audience to participate. The next one is the UP leader, Joseph Newman Boakai, has a press statement concerning the NEC hearings on Lofa elections 2022. By-elections supposed to take place in Lofa County, and the NEC has released its preliminary list, and Mr. Boakai said his party aspirant, the name is not on the list, so they issued a press statement. And Prince, give us an update of that press statement, if you have it, by Mr. Joseph Newman Boakai, complaining that if nothing is done, let me paraphrase him, nobody should blame him.
Yes, so you got it right. The by-elections was created when the former Defense Minister J. Brani Samukai was disqualified to take a seat due to legal battles within the government of Liberia. So the United Party submitted the name of its aspirant, who will be candidate, former Lofa Superintendent Kalakpa Kotuman. But the NEC, based on complete fight by one members of the CPP, NEC did not place the name on the professional list of the list. So the United Party today had a press conference, and I just want to read one line of that statement from the former Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai. Here he said, "An attempt to exclude the United Party from its legitimate and constitutional rights to contest as a registered political party once the ruling party of Liberia will be a direct enforcement of the political participation of hundreds of thousands of Liberian voters who will be disenfranchised and so on." And so those are some of the strong words that were used in the statement. So to narrow it down, the United Party is saying that, look, whether there is a document that tag or that prevent us from taking back the elections or not, all we know is that the NEC to make sure that our candidate, our aspirant, is accepted and he is listed as candidate for the elections, and so that he can participate, or so that the United Party can be able to field, a candidate in the elections. And so there we are. That statement was released today at a press conference at the UP Party headquarters today in Monrovia. And so we're following what the NEC will say, what will be the outcome of the case, and what will be also the public reaction to the statement released today. It was just released today. Much Anna talk about it, and so there we are.
Thank you. It should be noted that Brani Samukai won as the senator from Lofa County, but he was not able to take a seat because of his legal trouble. And so the Unity Party was not happy about that already, and now this one. So after the CPP fell into pieces, according to their framework, the ANC and LP filed a charge that, hey, the Unity Party should not contest because, according to our framework document, if a party withdraws from the CPP, you cannot field a candidate in your own name. Maybe the NEC is listening to that, and so when they put out the list, the candidate from Unity Party's name was not on it. So Mr. Boakai in the press statement said, "Let me emphasize again that the Unity Party and the people of Lofa have had enough. and will not continue to accept being insulted, disrespected, and disenfranchised by the We Are government. We, the Unity Party, he continues, take notice with serious concern that the name of our candidate, Mr. Galakba W. Kotumai, is not amongst those being cleared as one of the provisional aspirants. And as Prince read, any attempt to exclude the Unity Party from its legitimate and constitutional rights to contest as a registered political party once the ruling party of Liberia will be a direct infringement of the political participation of hundreds of thousands of Liberian voters who will be disenfranchised, gullible, and subsequently exposed to matters that will have national security concern. Larry, you first work around or work with people from the Unity Party or Mr. Boakai. What's your reaction to this statement? They're trying to scare us here?
I think Ambassador Boakai is speaking from the heart. This has some serious consequences based on what he is saying. Here's the thing. This whole business with Musa Ability, the NEC, the CPP, this is all, it's all not only blown out of proportion, but it disenfranchises a lot of people. Here's the thing. The Constitution makes it specifically clear in terms of the rules of who can run for election or a political party. The NEC does not put down the law of the land. It is the Constitution we follow. The CPP and Musa Ability and all of their complaints, this is something that I rarely talk about, but I'm going to touch on it briefly today. Here's why. In order for what Musa Ability is doing to hold true, he must have something in the legal sense called standing. In order to have standing, you have to show that you have been injured. Musa Ability cannot show he's been injured because the injury hasn't taken place yet. In order for the injury to take place, the election would have taken place, and then he would have shown that by Unity Party polling out, he got injured. I gave you the case in 2016, what happened here in the US. The exact same thing happened with this lady over in Florida, Wasserman Schultz. She went through the exact same process. And the court here in the US threw that case out because of a lack of standing. It's the exact same thing that is taking place in Liberia. I see Isaac is shaking his head. But Isaac, you will have to explain to me, where is the standing? Because if you understand the law, you know standing has to show that somebody has suffered injury. You have to show that the injury was direct to that person. And you also have to look at Article 77 of the Constitution in order to show that what Musa Ability is doing or what the CPP framework is doing overrides the Constitution. So tell me, does Musa Ability have standing in terms of what he's doing?
Isaac, before you come in, why you keep mentioning Musa Ability is the ANC and the LP, that is Mr. Cummings and Mr. Ability, who filed the complaint. Why the emphasis on Musa?
Correction, it's the CPP.
Thank you, Isaac. Yes.
All right, CPP.
Remember, the question, well, I know Dennis is asking one thing, but my question still stands. In order for someone to say the CPP, and the CPP is an organization. The CPP is an organization. It's an entity. It's an organization. So where has the injury occurred for the NEC to take action before the fact? You follow what I'm saying?
Isaac, can I answer him?
Let Isaac respond. And we're also joined by Gus Coleman, and he's on fire already. But Isaac, go ahead. What Isaac talking? Isaac, are you doing something?
Gus, no, I'm saying Gus just came. Let Gus answer, then I will answer because
yes.
I got to respond.
So my brother Lawrence, how you doing? Hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. But the injury happened with CPP, right, Isaac? When you go into an argument, a organization, and you pulled out this organization, mind you, this was the hope and aspiration of Liberians as far as opposition to the entire nation. This organization proved how much powerful it would have been or it could be against the current government. And then a certain group of people decide to just withdraw because of whatever reasons. That's the injury to not just the Liberian people, but the organization and the vehicle that they sought.
Wait, by me withdrawing my support from an organization means you've been injured?
Yeah, you had a contract. Yes, when we have a contract, yes.
But wait a second, that's
okay,
not an injury.
Hold on.
How do you quantify it? How do you quantify that injury?
Well, So in the contract, Lawrence is my driver. Okay. Lawrence decides he's not showing up today, but I can drive. How do I get to work?
All right. So Gus and
You're not injured. You are not injured because I didn't show up to work. It's a contract. But bear in mind, now if you're talking contract, it's a civil matter. It's not something that has to do with the Constitution.
Are you
But
ready for
also,
me?
you got it in court, by the way.
Hold on, Gus. Hold on, Gus.
I know the whole court thing. That whole court thing is
Larry,
something
hold on,
else.
Isaac.
But,
Larry, let me add. The Constitution gives the Unity Party the right to associate and dissociate, right?
that is
So
correct.
if the Unity Party leaves this marriage because they have the right, don't they have the right to leave and not leave? Will the Constitution be subordinate to the contract or to the
Thank
CPP framework?
You want
Isaac.
me? I can go ahead now.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, the collaborating political party framework document is a contract. These people signed it. That's an obligation on their part. Article 25 of the Liberian Constitution says, obligation of contract shall be guaranteed by the Republic, and no laws shall be passed which may impair this right. So that's a right to contract. Now, within the framework of that contract, there was a clause. And that clause states that if you desire to withdraw, right, you must first exhaust the dispute resolution process within the framework document. If you're not satisfied with that dispute resolution, you can go to your National Executive Committee. If 2/3 of the membership of that executive committee agree for you to exit, then fine, you can exit. But, and I'm reading straight from the document, it's being understood, however, that a party withdrawing from the alliance prior to the next presidential, legislative, and local elections shall not field candidates in its name.
Isaac,
So,
you're not answering Dennis' question.
Can I finish, Larry?
But you're answering a question that hasn't been asked.
That is the question.
The question is, should a contract supersede the Constitution?
But no, the contract is being buttressed by the Constitution. That's why I gave you the constitutional provision of contracts. I don't know why you don't understand.
Lawrence,
No,
Lawrence,
you guys.
Lawrence.
No, hold on, Gus. Isaac, how does they qualify as a contract?
It's an agreement between several political parties. It's signed by them. That's the agreement. It's notarized by the court or by the notary public in Liberia. Okay? And it was submitted to NEC as the official representation contractual arrangement for the collaboration.
And that's what I mean. We are not lawyers, right? But what makes a contract? Anything that we sign and
But then let's not go into that discussion with
But Janice, let me come in real quick.
No.
Especially, I want to address what Larry is saying. Larry is telling you something. He's saying something, and it's very important that we address the hierarchy of the issues. The Constitution is the supreme law. You cannot have an agreement or law that is against the Constitution. It makes it legal and void. So NEC duty, when it submitted such a contract that would have contravened the Constitution and the laws of the Constitution, they should have said, no, this is illegal. You cannot do this. If they did not do that, they did not do their duty.
But we do that with marriage.
No, wait a second. Hold up. Jimmy is on point.
When you present it to the NEC, and if there's something in violation of the Constitution, it is the NEC duty to tell you, no, you gotta go change that because it's in violation of the Constitution and your constitutional rights. But let's look at the real issue, and I want all Liberians to look at this group. If this group was a person, we call this kind of group self-injurious behavior. They tied themselves to all these clauses. They did all this to themselves. They don't want to have fair elections. I don't remember the UP having elections. They're going to the Congress. They don't want to have fair elections, but they want to participate in a democracy. We Liberians, We have to be careful of the handwriting on the wall. These people are not in support of democracy. It is clear they do not want, they want somebody to be in their caucus to be voted up and pushed up. But to say bring the person to let us vote for that person, they're not interested. And it's clear what they're doing.
Thank you, Jimmy. Let me come to you, Gus. In your mind, and we have not really discussed the statement yet, but did the Unity Party actually withdraw from the CPP because they did not fulfill the requirement of the CPP framework? Have they withdrawn from the CPP?
Well, and that's the question, you know. And again, if we avoid or we give people the option to just remove themselves for any kind of a obligation or any kind of agreement, what kind of principle are we setting? Let's think about marriage, for instance. Okay, you have the right to dissociate and all of that stuff. When you get married, you raise your hand, you say you're going to marry this person. You don't just leave because you want to leave and go marry another person. This person have rights to other properties that you have.
But here's my question. According to the framework, the UPP has now withdrawn, right?
The UP?
No,
according to the framework, the only reason why none of this stuff exists right now is because they have another party that took another party to court, like Mr. Eastman said. So how can you even go legally and even, absolve anybody from this whole issue when you have another person in court, you know, trying to prevent that person from running themselves?
Because Dennis' point is right. The UP has not formally withdrawn from the CPP because they did not consult and actually submit to the CPP the whole withdrawal or follow the process within the CPP framework. So essentially, you can say the UP is still a part of the CPP. That argument can be made.
Well, the former vice president has not even given up his leadership position. So I don't even know how.
Right. So if the UPP is still part of the CPP,
there is nothing they're trying to do correctly.
No, not UPP. I know you're progressive. I know you're progressive, Dennis. It's UP, not UPP.
Sorry, I still are in the progressive struggle, right? So if the UP has not withdrawn from the CPP, why are we discussing withdrawal clause and Kim-Fee candidate and so on and so forth?
Because they're trying to field a candidate. So they got to demonstrate that they have not done their due diligence in separating themselves.
Yeah, so why don't you consider them as part of the CPP?
But then they cannot field a candidate as UP. What's so difficult to understand about that, Dennis?
So
look, Dennis, let me come in.
CPP?
If they want to come in, they need to come in and basically on their knees, apologizing, and let us field the candidate as a CPP candidate. Then maybe the CPP, I'm not a part of the CPP leadership. I'm just saying that's what I think they should do, advising the Unity Party to do the right thing. They should come.
What I mean, the CPP is not accustomed to having primaries. That's how to do it all the time, right?
No. Now that we're not accustomed to having primary, you saw what the Unity Party were trying to do. They brought black voting, and how Costa crying all over the place for black voting. Like he even understood what it means. He doesn't. So we squashed that because it was not relevant to our framework document again. Okay.
So let's come to the
so we should have gone to primary. First, we should have gone to the voter perception survey.
Right.
They didn't have money to pay their dues. They didn't have money to pay their dues, Dennis. So we couldn't even go into that process, and we were running away from the primary process. That is the whole reason for all this noise. UP and ALP did not want to enter a primary.
All right. Let me
come in.
The actual statement. I know we are talking about the other issues giving rise to all this. So based on this statement, what is the Unity Party going to do? You know, because what I see here is like a threat. What's the next move if the NEC does not have Mr. Katumai names on the roster? What's going to happen, Larry?
Yeah, so let me put some clarity around a couple of things that Gus and Isaac is saying, and I think they're getting a couple of things mixed up over here. Number one,
and really
what Isaac is referring to Article 25 in the Constitution. That article is simply defining what a contract is, as opposed to where Article 25 specifically in the Constitution simply tells the obligation of a contract, right? You're just simply looking at the definition of
It
a
doesn't. No, it
contract.
does not define a contract. A
Hold
contract
on,
is
Isaac.
defined elsewhere. It tells
Is it-
you that a
Mhm.
contract is protected. That's what basically
It
it's
says
saying.
obligation of contract shall be guaranteed by the Republic.
Exactly.
It's defining
No,
the
it's not
obligations of a
defining.
contract.
They said
No,
the
let
obligation.
us not leave that. Let's leave
Okay.
let's leave the
Let's leave
semantics of
it
it.
at that. The
It never
second thing I
said,
wanted to-
no, but we can't let that kind of thing happen. Larry is
No.
very educated. He cannot say
Yeah,
that's
but
a
you made
definition
your
of a
point. Let Larry
contract.
continue, Isaac.
All right, Larry, go
They
ahead.
said the obligation of contract is not what contract is. That's
Thank
clear.
you.
Okay. So the second part is this whole thing about standing. And I just want to, and please answer me, Gus and Isaac, so I can understand this. Can you define or can you explain to me and the Liberian people how the ANC, along with Musa Ability, have suffered an injury
They never
that
answered that. You asked that before.
restrict their rights and freedom? Because standing in this matter has to do with your rights and freedom being injured, being restricted.
Larry, you are creating standing. We're not bringing no standing position here. We're telling you the person is violating the clause within the contract and they cannot feel a candidate. We're not talking about injury or standing here. Where are you coming from with that?
But Isaac, wait,
Here's the point I'm trying to make.
Mr.
Larry, please make your point.
Lawrence,
I want to open the phone
Lawrence,
lines
real
quickly.
quick. Lawrence.
Hold on, guys. Larry, please make your point. I asked you, what is the Unity Party going to do about this?
Well, I think the statement that Ambassador Boyka puts out there, I think that statement is something that's going to lead to a lot of protest, because in this instance, you are restricting an individual's constitution. You are restricting someone from their constitutional right to contest in an election. If you take a look around Africa, last year there were about 11 different elections around Africa. And a lot of the elections ended up in violence for the mere reason that somebody's right was being violated. Bobby Wine in Uganda, same thing happened. Take a look around Africa. You will see the evidence. The reason why you have someone from the Congo, not the Congo, Ivory Coast, was on trial at the ICC, again, it had to do with election violence. Look, the NEC is playing with fire. They need to be very careful with this whole matter. This is something that they shouldn't take lightly, because they're looking to restrict someone's constitutional freedom. Nowhere in the world can you tell someone they cannot break up a relationship and you're kind of restricting them from their freedom. It makes absolutely no sense, because then what it is saying is you didn't trust your ability to win on your own. That's what it is saying. It is actually saying, because listen, if I'm going to a partnership with Gus, say we're going to start a construction company, Gus says he's very good at construction. And if for whatever reason the construction deal decides not to work, Gus is saying, no, my man, you have to go into this construction business with me. It goes to show that Gus just didn't have the skill set to start the business on his own. It shows that you didn't have the ability to win this thing on your own, and you forced. But you know something? As someone who really looked at things from a different angle, this is not even the key issue that I would bring up if I really wanted to kind of kick ANC and Musa Ability out of this whole election thing. This whole thing is just, I think it's a major distraction, because that is not the major event that is going to destabilize the whole ANC party. So with that being said, I think people need to pay very close attention to exactly what Ambassador Boyka is saying, and the NEC need to pay close attention to it. Because when you start disenfranchising people from a fundamental right, it becomes an issue. It becomes a very, very serious issue. And this whole business, I don't understand why they're still pursuing this thing to force someone to join in a collaboration. For what reason? They don't want to. Let them go. You can do well on your own. I'll swing it back over to you, Dennis.
Lawrence, it's not as easy as that.
Thank you, Larry. Guys, we want to open our phone lines very quickly.
Yeah,
get set, Prince. So the Constitution, according to Article 17, say you have the right to associate and dissociate. We don't have a lawyer here, so you guys went into the whole legal thing, right?
Right.
Article 17 says you can. So what some legal minds are saying that provision in the CPP framework violates Article 17. And that's what they are saying. But we'll leave it as that, because I don't want us to go into the legal part of it. Prince, I want us to announce the local phone line. If you want to join the conversation, if you are in the diaspora, we have our phone lines open here. Those of you who've been calling, you know our phone lines, and I will put that on the screen. And let me go to Prince to announce the local lines. If you are in America, the number is 605-313-6004. The code is 791403#. Prince, what you got?
All right, so if you want to be part of the program tonight, you can call on 0770-1051 is the number in Liberia. 0770-1051 is the number. You can call to be a part of the program tonight, so you can speak with our panelists from there in the USA. Of course, we've been discussing a series of things you've been following. You can just put your call through, we'll pick it up. You can ask questions, you can make comments. And of course, your Prince will be worth thinking. So the number once more is 0770-1051, 0770-1051 is the number to call and be part of the program tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have a caller on the line. Let me start with Mr. Evans Morris. Evans, you are joining us from Minnesota. Am I correct?
That's right, Mr. John. Thank you so much for taking my call tonight. I just want to quickly tell you, you're really doing a great job moderating the show. I really like your stuff. Let me get to my points quickly. When it comes to the Ministry of Health and that corruption scandal that's going on, it's quite sad, and it's so embarrassing that the ministry that's supposed to protect the lives of our people and prolong their lives are actually killing them slowly by having that corruption going on in the health ministry, because a lot of people have bad experiences when it comes to going to hospitals in Liberia. Most of us in the diaspora, we're very afraid to even travel to Liberia and get sick. It's almost like a death sentence or something that's supposed to be so simple. When it comes to your health, it gets exponentially worse when you go to a hospital in Liberia. And then secondly, I quickly want to touch on an issue with JMB and the CPP. You know, I used to look at this old man as a peaceful man, but some of the statements that he's making is quite incendiary. You know, in terms of insinuating violence, that's something that should not be spoken from him. I don't know if he's saying it from his own heart or people are writing it and giving it to him or trying to make him sound like a tough guy, but it's not right. And then on the issue with the CPP, they got themselves into it. I agree with Mr. Vitopar on this issue. They got themselves into that situation with the CPP coming together, and now they just want to arbitrarily remove themselves from the process. That's not right. It shouldn't be like that. Thank you again for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me take one more call, and then I can send it over to Prince if you have callers here. We have Dulcich Paul is calling us also from Minnesota. Mr. Paul, you're live.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Great conversation. So, I mean, on the issue of, corruption, I mean, when you post the question, what can we do? And I keep hearing your parents talking about we need to prosecute, we need to is not a solution. One of the solutions came from, Henry Costa. At the time, I believe he was very honest about his advocacy. But later on, we started realizing that he wasn't what he purported to be. But way back, he interviewed Mr. Cummings, and he asked Mr. Cummings this question. He said, will you be willing to sign a social contract? And Mr. Cummings said, yes. So I think, all of the brilliant violence you have is about us rallying around one leader, drawing out a real contract that, sir, if you get into office, are you going to prosecute? And if you don't prosecute, will you step down? That's a solution. We have to be real, like proactive with real solution. But all we need to, Senator and all those guys, they have already calculated that. All the people are talking and criticizing them when they get into office will do the same thing that they have been doing. That's the calculation that people already made. And from some of the discussion I'm hearing tonight, it only goes to show that maybe they are right. Because I hear, a brilliant brother like our brother Larry saying, supporting what Mr. Berger said today, but they assume, the NEC is wrong. And the rule against or the Unity Party. So that means they're supposed to go on the street and start running down buildings. That's the solution. So, we really got to do better as Liberians, because again, like I said, people that we respect and we look, and, we see them, the way they present themselves, and then we hear some of the solutions. It allows us to believe that maybe when they get into office, they'll do the same thing. So,
Thank you.
Again, we have to cut, the solution has to be, we have to meet these leaders and make them to hold it to certain, a cut.
Thank you. Thank you. Prince, you have color there because I have more here.
No color yet.
All right.
So
Let me bring in Aliyu Kamara. Mr. Aliyu, you're live.
Yes, Dennis, thank you for having me. Great show, great program. First of all, let me start with the park, the Invincible Park. I don't know what's invincible about a park that is on a runway of an airfield. I don't know how is it invincible. Everybody can see it.
No,
I don't know what's
Invincible. Invincible.
Oh, Invincible.
Yeah, like Invincible 11.
Invincible, okay. All that land to Brooksville, all that land to Ralphie Highway, that only on the Springfield, right on the quota of the Springfield, to make it good for the park. But let's just say, we want to tell him thank you so much for a job well done. Talking about that 1.1 billion, my brother, then you're talking. If you know what job you have in the next, then we are preparing for a game with Oboja tomorrow. Why are you talking about corruption? Not scared. Okay, but let me count in with this Joseph Yuma Bwaka stuff. You know, enough is enough. Joseph Yuma Bwaka is a calm fella. We saw what happened in the 2017 election. Some people expected that Joseph Yuma Bwaka would have gone over the top, but he was able to control himself. You know, when people get the analogy about marriage, my name Aliyu Kamara Tenesja. I was married before. Me, my wife will go, I divorce my wife, somebody say, I get a right to divorce, but I don't get a right to use my need to marry another woman. So I get the Aliyu Kamara, next time I get married, Aliyu Samos. How is that my right? You know, when people make their marriage analogy, it really does not hold with us. The CPP say the agreement say the CPP are talking about stability and the other guy coming. The agreement say you must follow the procedure, you must write there, you must go through all of the things there. But then at the end they say, even if you follow it to the letter, you still will not get freedom. What's the point of following it? But let me speak openly to the people of Lofa Country. Friends, I hope your vision goes far. No, Lofa Country, the home of my grandfather, Salia Kamara, aka Pamachi Mamadi. You have allowed the first one to happen. It happened, so George Weah knows he can get away with it anytime he wants to. I'm asking the people of Lofa County, forget about country devil, no country devil business. No country devil business. This is not just an incursion on somebody's civil liberty, but this is enslaving a particular group of people. Stand up. Don't worry about dying. You're too scared to die. Stand up.
Aliyu.
Face these people.
Aliyu.
Listen. No. I'm not asking for violence. I'm not calling for violence.
Okay, please.
I'm saying stand up.
All right.
Okay? That's all I said.
Thank you.
Stand up. Okay, so the people of Lofa County, if you allow this again, George will do another one. The point here is David Ethel Brown knows that constitutionally, you can't tell somebody that you're free to go, but you got to change your knee. Your knee cannot be your knee. Okay?
Thank you.
But because David Ethel Brown is covered with corruption, and this is the only bargain now she has to satisfy George Weah and the CDC so that she can retain her position, she will do whatever it takes. And Joseph Yuma's speech must not be taken out of context. He's not a violent man. He's never asked for violence. But how much can one person take? Okay? Brandon Samuka did not steal any money. It is record. The records are there that the CIC, the commander-in-chief,
thank you, Aliyu,
gave him authority to use money. Even at that, CDC,
Aliyu,
they did to Cabinet Janet. It's the same thing that they did. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Aliyu. Every time Aliyu comes, he takes over this thing. Mr. Prince, if you don't have, I have one more here or two more, because every time Aliyu calls, then Kesely Double will call. Let's hear from Norris Johnson, if that's 609 area code. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello, this is Norris Johnson. I'm calling from Fort Drum, upstate New York. And I appreciate the opportunity you gave me today to just calling in. And my problem is, let's start straight from 14 years of civil conflict in Liberia. And after the war ended, we have no rehabilitation program. So how much do you expect? Or what do you expect from Liberians? Well, my disappointment is really in Mr. Kennedy, who I think that I admire so much. And Mr. Kennedy is a well-educated person. I don't understand why he's not looking at the bigger picture. I don't know how to say. Mr. Kennedy, I wish that would have made change, right? By the way, by disclaimer, I am from Point-Germain, Norfolk County, from the Bondage tribe, so I know who Joseph Walker is. Joseph Walker doesn't have no more Jews in him. Let's let Joseph Walker go and sit down and do what he does best: sleep and help, give us some advice, some pieces of advice or something.
Thank you.
Joseph Walker is not ready to be president. Let's be very frank. Corruption in the Joshua administration is never going to end. I don't know how many times we're going to say that. It's not going to end. Because this dude has surrendered himself with crooks.
Thank you, Norris. Thank you.
Oh, did you cut me off?
No, just wrap it up because we have more callers here.
Okay, I was just about to say, hey, all of the problems that we face in Liberia, the solution is very simple. ABC is a solution. Arizona big companies all the way to the end. Let's do it.
Thank you. Ms. Prince, you have a caller. Let me get one more here. Keseli Double. Keseli, you have 49 seconds, please.
Yeah, Mr. John, thank you very much, and thanks to your panelists again once more. I wanted to speak on the issue that has to do with the park.
Yeah.
Mr. John, it's like you were almost taking my words from my mouth. You can't have a bunch of so-called women in the city, and then you say you are building recreation centers for them to come and benefit. So I think the priority is misplaced by the government. And this is not the first time, and I'm sure this is not going to be the last time. How can you have Zogos who are supposed to be benefiting, and they are all drug addicts? I think the first thing we should do is to flush the drugs out of them, rehabilitate them, which is a priority, and then we can build a recreation center for them. But I bet you, just give it 6 months from now, that recreation center, it is not my prayer, but the people who are supposed to be using that facility, and they are all drug addicts, we don't expect to see that center into any good. And I think the government keep making too many mistakes. Take a look, for example, look at the Douala market they just built yesterday that they were boasting of. There was a video I saw yesterday and day before yesterday. Mr. Jai, you watch that video, you'll be shameful. It is a disgrace that the government keep lavishing the poor money the way they are doing just because they want popularity, and the popularity is not working. And it's just not learning from it. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you always for participating. Prince?
Yeah, so let me once more announce the number. We have tons of call about this one, but let me announce the number once more: 0770-1051, 0770-1051. It's a number you can call to be part of the program here at Prime 105.5. The program is focused on Liberia with our panelists from the US who have called on the line. Good evening. Hello, your name, where you call us from? Are you getting the call? Are you getting the call? Hello.
Yeah, it's grinding, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's grinding. I'm sure. Are you getting in on this?
Yeah, Jamaica Road. I used to live right near Saco there, so I can relate.
Go ahead. Oh, he gone off. Call on 0770-1051, 0770-1051 is the number you can call to be a part of the program tonight on Prime 105.5 FM. Is the program focused on Liberia. They call us straight up the line so you can pick up the call from there.
Hey, Dennis, let me come in before.
I wanted Larry to come in.
The procedure of law is so important to follow. When we do not follow the proper procedures, we create problems down the road that are insoluble. The case in point is this Samakai's election. After he was duly elected, he later on the verdict came that he was guilty of some crime of something. By law, he should have taken his seat and been impeached because of the crime he did. We should have impeached him. We would have not created this problem we have today. If somebody is a criminal, they cannot hold the seat. The Senate or the legislature should have gone in, said, well, the man got his seat fairly, but he has
Jimmy,
been brought down.
Are you speaking law?
No,
that's yeah, because I was told by a lawyer that decision rendered him legally disabled, and that's why he couldn't take a seat. But let me get Larry. We got two callers here. Larry.
Yeah, I just want to put a question on the table real quick and think about this question, guys, before you answer. What if the framework document has said any party that pulls out of the collaboration, members of that party will lose their right to vote? Would that be legal?
No.
So why is it, but then think about it now, stop there for a second. So why is it that the framework document is saying any party that pulls out of the collaboration, that party has no right to contest?
Yes. So Lawrence,
it's within the same Article 77 of the Constitution. You're saying one part, go ahead.
So Lawrence, the parties came together, right? When they came together.
No, stick with the question. Don't answer the question I'm not asking. The question I'm asking is, what if the framework document, because remember now we have a constitution that is the law of the land. What if the framework document came in and said any party that pulled out of this framework,
right,
that members of that party would not have a right to vote?
But Larry,
Larry,
what sense, hold on, Gus. What sense does that question make, Larry?
Yeah.
Who
the
can
question
identify,
makes sense because, listen,
who can identify members of a political party today?
That's just an
unique
example,
identification we have?
There is not a bloodline.
Listen, let me tell you why the question makes sense. The question makes sense
because to me too,
Section B of Article 77 has two parts. One part talks about you being 18 years old and having the right to vote. The second part talks about you having a political party. If you're saying the second part is null and void, meaning political party cannot have a right to contest, then you have to agree that this first part that's saying your right to vote is also null and void, because anyone now can come up, create a framework document that can supersede the Constitution. You're shaking your head, but you don't seem to be following the argument. And the reason why I'm saying this, because when you look historically around Africa, people have done this before and they have lost. It happened here in 2016, the US. The Court of Appeals here in the US threw out the case against the Democratic Party because they said the Democratic Party was structured in a way to benefit Hillary Clinton and not Bernie Sanders. That case was tossed out. It's the exact same thing.
You are bringing a totally different scenario to compare it with this scenario. What kind of man are you?
Are you listening? Isaac,
yes,
listen
I'm
carefully.
listening, but you
let me frame the question
that
again.
Don't even correlate.
A framework document cannot supersede the Constitution. Do you understand that? Do you agree with that argument?
Without question, it's not superseding.
Right.
But the framework document is saying that political parties that are pulling out does not have the right to contest. It violates Section B of the...
In that name, definitely in that party's name. It doesn't violate anything.
And that's
go
the
to
point.
the Supreme Court can
Because those
that.
parties don't exist anymore, Lawrence.
Isaac, you're missing the point.
Larry, we got 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes.
You are missing the point. The point is,
Larry,
a contract cannot tell me...
Larry,
it cannot supersede my constitutional right.
Right,
Larry.
Hold on, Isaac. We are out of time.
No. Wait a second, man, Larry. No compete clauses before. Have you not? Have you not, Larry?
Yes, compete clauses. Yeah, what's the point?
No compete. So you can be in a business with somebody and agree that if you leave, you can't compete with them for a certain level of time. No?
But listen carefully. A non-complete clause cannot be, it has to be a jurisdiction for non-complete clause. You cannot have a universal non-complete clause.
Yes, you can have. In this particular sector or industry,
Isaac,
you cannot recruit people.
I only say things
participate.
that I have evidence to.
No, Larry and Isaac,
let me give you an example.
Hold on there.
Capital buys
Isaac, we are out of time. We are on Prime FM in Monrovia, so we can't go beyond their time.
All right.
If you tell me Larry can have that discussion, that means
we can have that discussion later on.
Larry's off base. Go ahead.
We can have that discussion later. John Maglo, you have 30 seconds, and I have Teddy Yankun 30 seconds. Please make your 30-second statement, and then I can go back to my panelists. John Maglo, you're live.
Find a niche.
John Maglo, I can't hear you. Let me go to Teddy Yankun.
That was valuable advice from you, Frank.
Teddy Jankon, can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Question or comments? 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you for taking my call. Well, greetings to the rest of the panelists. I'm Terry Caroline Yakon, Chairman of Operations for the CDC Party in North Dakota. Let me use this time, to appreciate my president George Manuel, because I read it. You talking discussing about some kind of the Invisible Park. The Invisible Park this time around, very essential, very important, heritage, environment for the Liberian people, due to a lot of frustrations, a lot of, traumatizations that have been going on in the country, even though international community and past region already well to de-traumatize our youth and others. So at this time around, we know this president, is a fast-started, president. So what he did, he built that park. It's not only going to help full emphasis on Zoko, but even some of the very, well-thinking people who feel that they can control their minds, their brain.
Right.
So, but they still have some problems, some social problems. So some people will go to that park to release themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Teddy. We don't have much time. Sorry to cut you off, but we are. Yeah, sorry. John Maulo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you doing?
Good. 30 seconds. Let's hear your comments or question, please.
Hey, listen. As far as the Invincible Park, look, this just tells us that George Weah is having his way and nobody is questioning. They stopped people from playing on that field before because 2 planes crashed in that same spot. And now he go and build a park. Do we even imagine that when that airport is busy and that park is full, a plane could crash there while people are playing? Is anybody thinking about that? Or are they trying to move the airport and put it somewhere else? The second thing is, this appeal George, how they call him, Joseph Walker is making to Lofa County. I don't know if it's him or his people writing something that he's reading. For what? Why is Lofa coming to put their future on the line for Joe Walker? Why is he done for them? What is he done for them? Zero.
Thank you, John.
Zero. Now you're making it a travel business. He's trying to be president of Lufa County or Liberia. This thing needs to stop. You need to stop playing these travel games with the people's lives.
Thank you.
Now, as far as what Larry was talking about, the framework document, the framework document didn't stop you from going to contest. They say you cannot go with your logo. You cannot go with your name. And there's nothing there against the Constitution that says you need to carry your name.
Thank
you
you.
already give your name to our people. It's like you, 4 people buying 4 tires for a car that you agree to go somewhere, or if anybody decides to get down, you can't get your tire
You
until
take your tire from there.
Well, if 2 people get by and get down, they will have to wait until we reach. Then they can get their tire. And that's simply what it's saying.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So, gentlemen, you heard all our callers. At this time, we're going to go around the room and get your closing comment, because we are on time here. We want to be on time with Prime FM in Monrovia. Let me start with Jimmy. Jimmy, your closing comment, sir. You can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. It's been a riveting conversation. I enjoyed the points by many of my fellow panelists here, but I just like to leave the audience with one thought. Number one, we saw that a couple of parties came together to contest the elections, but they couldn't even get to the elections. They had a conflict. I think that is a reflection of some inherent problem with that whole organization. So we have to be careful before that disease that got them broken up today transmits to the rest of Liberia. While there are several projects that could be earmarked for Liberia, there are many competing needs. Promoting the youth development in sports is a healthy issue, and that in itself is not bad. What is bad is how we are assigning priorities to our projects. And lastly, if we're not holding people accountable, if our ministers are not held to the highest standard of accountability, they cannot lead the rest of the country. They have to first fall in line. And we're looking that this administration puts all our ministers and agencies in line so they can do the best for Liberians.
Thank you. Thank you. Isaac, your closing comments, sir.
Yes, thank you. I didn't weigh in on the whole stadium situation. The idea of a park is wonderful. I have a problem with the location, and I have an issue with the actual expenditure and what is its source. Maybe there need to be more elaboration on that. Hopefully there can be. That airport is a risky proposition. Yes, it may not happen for 2, 3, 4 years, but maybe in the 5th year, some kind of plane could crash over there, and it could be a major problem. So, the safety aspect is what is my concern. I believe, as it is in Liberia, we don't have enough recreational outlets. More would be better. It's just that they need to be decentralized and situated where people can access them, and that has not been the case. Overall, thank you for the opportunity. It was wonderful engaging these folks. Discussing with Larry, especially when I have an opposing viewpoint, is always a pleasure. And Larry tried to bring these weird, esoteric analogies to bear and say these two situations are identical when they are so far removed from each other. You can't understand where he comes from with some of that stuff. But it makes for wonderful conversation, and I hope the people who are listening were entertained. But the reality is the Constitution protects a contract. The CPP was in a contractual arrangement. The Unity Party violated that contract by extricating itself from it with all the due mechanisms in terms of internal dispute resolution, in terms of submitting actually their communication to say they were withdrawing. So they essentially have not fully withdrawn, and they cannot field a candidate. It's simple. I believe the NEC will rule in favor of the CPP, in that situation. As regards corruption, it's just very sad. We are on the deep end of the corruption meter, on the very negative side. George Weah needs to wake up. He needs to hold his ministers, deputy ministers, assistant ministers, and the people in government accountable. And we need to really implement some basic infrastructural stuff in terms of systems, whether it's identification of individuals or assets, whether including land as well, whether it's being able to, extend those kind of identifications into systems, monetary systems, financial payment systems, for example, into our election systems, for example, where now there's this whole issue about biometrics with regards to NEC running the whole process, and the National Identification Registry is there probably trying to do the same thing, but not funded to do it. So all of these things are things that talked about people having a concept about how do we develop this country. That's why we started our program, Restart/Rebuild Liberia. What are those building blocks that are needed in place? What are those issues that we should look at first? Like some people say, this government wants to do everything, the private government wants to do everything. No way. You got to lay the foundation and build them properly for us to get to where we want to get to. So these discussions will continue. We appreciate a platform like yours that gave people the opportunity to express themselves, to share their viewpoints, to include the listeners, to participate. And we just hope that this kind of stuff can continue. Tomorrow will be on Weekend Review, summarizing, and some of the discussion here will be some of the things we'll be discussing on our show tomorrow on Weekend Review. So we want to say thank you for the opportunity, and we hope one or two of you can come on the show and engage with us and for us to have these vibrant discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll go to Larry. Larry, I want us and I want you and Gus to talk about this in your closing. Is the CPP was a collaboration, not a merger, right? And so parties, according to the framework, maintain their identities. So when you leave, why can you take your identity while you're leaving it behind? Because you're leaving. Larry, your closing comments.
It's kind of
That was
embarrassing
unfair,
to think.
but I'm gone.
It's kind of embarrassing to think
will end
that
up for you that your teammate.
if I'm a member of any party and you're forcing another party to join with us, I would feel a little bit embarrassed because it shows that we can stand on our own. It is so important for parties to be able to stand on their own. Collaboration is a great effort. We understand that in Liberia, you need collaboration to succeed. But remember now, if one party decides they don't want to be part of something, let them move on. We have our own policies. We have our own strategies. I think we can win on our own. That's what, if I'm a member of
anything that's going to tie you forever.
Exactly. But here's the key. And one of the reasons why contracts are such big issues anywhere in the world is because people will write contracts that will benefit them. And just because someone write a contract a specific way doesn't necessarily make it legal. Any contract that violates a law is completely void. From the onset, it's no go. So this whole thing here about, look, no. The contract is void from the onset because it violates your right and your identity. And I'll continue to say this. This is probably the last time you hear me discuss this stuff. I rarely discuss this whole CPP mess because I think people made mistakes from the onset. So I don't really get into it much. But I would say this. Just how you're saying, if you're trying to argue that it is legal for a contract to exclude a political party, then you're also setting a precedent. You're setting the foundation of something new where people can now write contract to exclude certain people from voting. It violates Article 77 of the Constitution. It's not going to hold. Ambassador Boycott is making some very firm statement, and the U.S. government going to pay close attention to it. On the business of corruption, no country has ever developed that is being corrupt. No country has ever developed without the rule of law. It's just given. It's never happened. It never will. So Liberia keeps going in this endless cycle. When peace building ran that survey at the end of the Civil War, what were the three major issues that led to the Civil War? People were answering corruption, greed and corruption. It was the leading factor that led to the Civil War. We haven't solved that issue. It was inequality. Having one group that seems superior to another. That's another big problem. And then, of course, tribalism was also there. I'm glad in this election we're not talking tribalism because we have two people who are sons of the soil, or three people who are sons of the soil who are actually running. So tribalism seems to be pushed out the door, which is great. But let's be honest, man. If we want to fix this country, we got to start making some changes somewhere. And this whole nonsense about stealing money from Global Fund, the U.S. got the money in there, so someone's going to pay for that eventually. I can almost guarantee it. Someone is going to be prosecuted. The U.S. has been grabbing people from around the world. When the FBI ran something called Operation Rewired, they picked up 281 people from around the world, from all over the place. They're going to grab someone on this whole business. And I showed you in 2010, I posted it in the chat in 2010. They grabbed 2 Liberians for stealing a little over $1 million from USAID. Something's going to happen to this. Something's going to happen in this.
Thank you. Gus?
Yes.
Sorry, I'll have to cut you short for 1 minute.
I shouldn't be too long. Anyways, first of all, I just want to make this very clear. There are, I think, 5 other candidates from Lofa County that are in this race. So this notion that Unity Party is the only party that represents Lofa County is, first of all, null and void. So we need to end that. Unity Party hasn't done anything for Lofa, as far as I know, that made them the party of choice in Lofa County. Then the brother talks about all of these political parties maintain their identity. Yes, they did. Their individual identities were maintained. But in the eyes of the NEC, no. This is why when CPP put up a candidate, no other candidate, remember what happened in Imba County? No other candidate could show up and say, I'm going to run as an ANC candidate. No, you couldn't do that because ANC, UP, and all of these people was already under this one umbrella, right? This umbrella was representing. So in essence, the only way these parties can now go ahead and do their own thing, they have to go reapply the NEC as Unity Party for the next election. This is what Unity Party is trying to do. I think Mr. Muda even mentioned that, where they had to make sure they had their bank accounts, $10,000 or whatever it was, maintained and all those things. But when they went to CPP, those things were already null and void. They didn't have to worry about it. They were going as CPP. So for you to now withdraw and then force other parties to have to now redo other things, it's not convenience for them. So why should we even be doing that? And again, like the brother Eastman has stated, if we set this precedence, it's going to continue. And this is what librarians do all the time. Because it favors us, we want to allow it. For me, I don't think we should allow it. Mr. Boakai and Mr. Ure, they can sit down and say, look, let's start with this. Why don't we go ahead and drop this case out of the courts? Then we can take care of our business and then go back and to the NEC and register each individual parties as it stand or as it stood before. And then we can go from there. But until then, CPP is CPP. They need to follow the rules or else, we'll just have CDC on the ballot and independent candidates.
Thank you. Thank
you have a good night, man.
Prince, let's conclude.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I don't think I have much to say. I just want to talk a little bit on the issue of the CPP. I think the United Party is aware, and the NEC is also cognizant of the fact that the issue has been investigated by the committee on nomination of the NEC. At the end of the day, they're going to be a funding. If the United Party, it doesn't please the United Party, they're going to take an appeal, and probably they're not going to Supreme Court to go to the rule. So that is the final update of the law. So I'm not too pleased with some of the wording in the press statement from the United Party. Frank, there are some half words there. But again, that's how the politics play. So I just want to speak about that. We hope that at the end of the day, the NEC will come up, the committee on the nomination will come up with its funding into the complaint. But again, like Larry said, and then actually is continually defending that aspect of it. The fact that there's a contract prepared on an individual doesn't make it legal, or that it doesn't make that all things that are issued in the contract are binding. They are challenged. Some aspects of the contract will be challenged, and when the law can interpret that. So there we are. We follow it, and we hope that how it's going to be interpreted by the lawyers, and the court.
Thank you so much, Prince. I want to thank all our panelists here. Always right here, focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. I want to thank our viewers, also our listeners, especially in Liberia, hearing us for day 2 in this collaboration with Prime FM. Until then, we're going to play our song that always closes our program that says, whether you believe or the UP should feed a Kennedy or not, whatever it is, we are all Liberians. And that's the song that's taking us home tonight. Good night and have a good night.
We are Liberians.